Have you ever wondered what it feels like when a hero you buried in your heart claws his way back from the abyss, not as a shining knight, but as the very darkness that once swallowed him whole? Like the legendary samurai who fell on the battlefield at Sekigahara, only to rise with a blade still wet from betrayal, or the ancient myth of a king sleeping under a mountain who returns when the world burns. That raw mix of fear, desperate hope, and the heavy taste of sacrifice hangs in the air of episode 11 of Yoroi Shin Samurai Troopers, which dropped yesterday, March 17, 2026, on Crunchyroll. Right in the boiling heart of this sequel arc, where the old demon threat has clawed back into Shinjuku's neon nights, this episode doesn't just move the story, it grabs your chest and squeezes until you forget how to breathe. I watched it at 2 a.m., lights off, and felt the cold wind of Tokyo's ruined streets on my own skin. You will too, because this isn't just anime anymore. It's the moment the legend stops being a memory and starts walking beside you again. The young samurai troopers, Ryusei Oda and his battered team, have been fighting for their lives since the black clouds first swallowed the city lights. Previous episodes left them broken, friendships fractured, armors cracked, and one terrifying truth slowly sinking in. The enemy they face wears a face they once trusted. Episode 11 slams that truth into the open. On Crunchyroll, right after the haunting opening Weiwei by Blank Paper fades, we dive straight into the fire. The new warriors charge Ramaga in a storm of steel and light, desperate to end the invasion that's turning ordinary people into something monstrous. Hearts pound like war drums. Blades clash with sparks that smell like burning cherry blossoms. And then, everything changes. A sword older than the armors themselves is drawn. A life is lost forever, and a ghost from the original battles steps back into the light. No cheap tricks, no easy revival, just raw, bleeding destiny. You feel it in your bones, the same way you felt when a hero fell in Seven Samurai or when the sky split in old war tales. The episode doesn't hand you answers on a plate. It makes you taste the ash and wonder, will the cost be too high? This is where the story stops being about 5 kids in cool armor and becomes something deeper. The plot races forward like a runaway horse. Every second counts as the invasion hits Tokyo's heart. The big revelation hits like lightning. The sword of domination, that legendary blade tied to the ancient armors, finally rips Ramaga's poisonous hold off its victim, but it refuses to bring back what was truly lost. Fans have been asking for weeks on Reddit and old forums, how did this happen? Why him? The answer lands here with painful clarity. It ties straight back to the original series lore about the armor's limits, the same limits that once stopped even the greatest trooper from saving everyone. No manga or light novel retcon, just the cold truth the 1988 story always whispered. Some wounds even legendary power can't heal. The pacing is breathless yet perfectly balanced. Long, silent stares between clashes that let the weight settle, then explosions of color and motion that leave you gripping your seat. The cliffhanger? 2 warriors, one old legend and one new heart, standing shoulder to shoulder in shimmering white armor, facing the monster that nearly broke the world. You'll pause the screen and whisper, no way, because you already know the next episode is called something that sounds like goodbye, but feels like a beginning. The characters don't just fight, they bleed on the inside. Ryusei Oda, voiced by the incredible Tashiki Masuda, carries the fire of a leader who's watched too many friends fall. His eyes in this episode hold the same quiet terror you see in soldiers who've carried their comrades' dog tags home. Mirai Aragaki's final moments, Lin's voice cracking like thin ice, hit harder than any. Armor smash. Her hidden fear of being just the new girl turns into a sacrifice that feels as real as losing someone you love. And then, Ryo Sanada returns. Takashi Kazeo, the same voice that roared Rekka 38 years ago, delivers lines heavy with regret and quiet fury. You hear the tremor of a man who was possessed, used as a weapon, and now has to live with the blood on his hands. His choices in this episode aren't heroic shouts. They're broken whispers that still somehow light a spark. Every decision feels earned, every silence louder than any battle cry. The themes cut deep. What does it mean to carry the weight of the past when it literally wore your face? How much are you willing to sacrifice when hope and despair wear the same armor? These questions don't get preached. They burn through every frame, the way real history burns through old samurai scrolls. Honor, loss, the terrible price of power. The world building adds one more cruel layer. The white armor, once just a dream in old prototype sketches, finally appears, but only after the blood price is paid. Visually, this episode is pure fire. Art director Osamu Tezuka paints Shinjuku's ruined streets in bleeding reds and hopeless blues, shadows that crawl like living demons, light that feels warm only when hope flickers. Chief animation directors Junko Yamanaka and Tomoko Tanaka, with main animator Hiroyuki Nishimura, make every armor transformation feel heavy, every clash land with real real weight. Director Yuichi Fujita uses tight close-ups on trembling hands and wide shots of falling skyscrapers so you feel tiny and huge at the same time, exactly like standing in the middle of a real catastrophe. The soundtrack, especially the motifs that echo the original series, doesn't just play, it haunts. When the music drops to silence right before the final sword is drawn, your own heartbeat becomes the drum. And the voice acting? Takashi Kazuo's Ryo carries the soul of a man who walked through hell and came back changed. Toshiki Masuda gives Ryusei a raw edge that makes you believe every scream. Lin's last lines as Mireille will stay with you long after the credits. I closed my eyes after the final shot and felt actual tears. That scar of loss, that spark of impossible hope, it's the same feeling you get when an old friend you thought gone texts you at 3 a.m. saying, "I'm home." This episode doesn't just entertain. It reminds you why we tell stories about warriors in the first place. Because sometimes the darkest night is when the oldest light decides to return. Yes, some fans, myself included at first, felt the morning pass too quickly. The city turns to monsters almost before the tears dry. But that rush isn't a flaw. It's deliberate. It mirrors real life. Wars don't pause for perfect grief. The darkness feels heavy on purpose, because light only matters when you've walked through the black. Episode 11 is the turning point the sequel needed. Raw, painful, and utterly unforgettable. It succeeds completely in what it sets out to do. Drag the old legend back into the fight and make you care more than ever. Now the white armor stands ready. Two warriors, one from yesterday, one from tomorrow, face the end. So tell me, are you really gonna look away now? Open Crunchyroll. Hit play on episode 11. Because the story isn't just calling. It's waiting for you to step into the armor too.